Welcome back to the channel, guys. Today we're going to be talking about how I made my first $100,000 as a financial advisor. Time to think like an investor. When I first got into the financial advice business, even before I got into the business, I was completely apprehensive about this whole thing. And maybe you're curious about the career, which is why you're watching this video in the first place, but it's really daunting. It's really frightening because if you know anything about this business, you have to go and build your own clientele. You have to literally build your own business. Sure, it's a job title, but at the end of the day, you're really a business owner and you're starting from scratch. And that's really frightening because for me and for a lot of people, there's something really special and really nice about having a consistent, stable income that you can rely on. And when you're exploring this business, you realize very quickly, if I want to do this, if I want to give this a shot, I might not have that for a while. I might not have that for a long time. So today I want to talk about specifically my experience going through this because I was no different. I actually remember talking to a friend who was an entrepreneur who started his business, and I said to him, hey, I don't really know if I have that gene that you have. I don't know if I can go out and get it and go out into the world and kind of build my own thing and find my own clients. That's where my mind was at. But you know what? I decided to do it anyways. I said, screw it. I'm gonna try anyways, and I mustered up the courage to get started. And eventually, it actually turned out, which is kind of crazy. So today I wanna talk about if this is something that you can do too, because honestly, it is so worth it. It is extremely difficult, I will say, but the thing about building your own business is that you're eventually in control of your own schedule. And for me, making $100,000 on my own terms and on my own schedule is equivalent to me making $500,000 with a full-time job. And I kind of pulled that number out of nowhere. But in my mind, it is so important for me to have autonomy in the way that I choose to work. And that makes the income so much better. How do we get there? Well, when I first got into the business, I want to tell you a story about one of the best pieces of advice I got, which was, if you want to succeed, you should be asking the complete opposite question. And don't worry, we'll get there. We're going to talk about how to succeed and how to make money as a financial advisor. But the first thing you need to understand is that it's the wrong question, because the right question is, how little money am I okay making while I build my business before I give up? Is that $20,000 a year? Is that $40,000 a year? What is the minimum I am willing to make to stick with it? Because that's the thing. When you're starting any business, the reality is that it's going to start way slower than you expect. For instance, for me, when I first got into this business, and we'll talk about this in a moment, my first year, I was able to get $800,000 in investor money. That's less than $1 million. That's almost nothing. That is not even close to being able to live off of. And if I had gone in expecting, if I don't make $100,000, I will quit, I would have never made it. I would have never gotten there. So the first thing I need to do before we even get into any of this is I want to tell you guys, the only way you're going to succeed is if you set a minimum bar instead of a maximum bar, if that kind of makes sense. Now, the best way I would encourage someone or advise them to start thinking about this is think about the process and not necessarily the goal. At the end of the day, your life is going to fall to the level of your processes or your systems, not necessarily your goals, right? If you have some goal in your mind that you want to achieve, I want to make $100,000 or whatever it might be in your business, that doesn't matter. No one really cares about your goal. The world, the market doesn't care about your goal. You need to have habits and systems. So instead of thinking about what's the goal, I want to really think about what system could you put in place to make sure that you do succeed. So that's going to require a little bit of a breakdown and a little bit of some math. Going into this business, you're well aware that you're going to have to find clients, and then you're going to have to determine what it is that they want and need, and then you're going to have to build them a proposal, and then you're going to have to close the deal. That's kind of the sales process with every different type of business. So we need to understand a few different things. And if you're in the hiring process or you're already a financial advisor, you'll already know some things about your compensation and how it works, but we really just want to reverse engineer everything. We want to take $100,000 in revenue and work backwards and determine, how do I get there? What are the systems I can put in place to ultimately get there? So we're going to need to assume 4 things. We're going to need to figure out 4 different things. First of all, what is the split between my revenue sources? And to make this video simple, there's really 2 major revenue sources for most financial advisors. There's investments and there's insurance. So first of all, you have to think about, what is my ideal split? You might think, and for the sake of this video, we'll say your ideal split is 50-50. 50% of my revenue will come from investments, 50% will come from insurance. Me personally, it's more like 90-10. I'm way more on the investment side, much more passionate about that, but let's assume 50-50 for you. Then you have to think about, what is your average client size? Are you older and more established in the business and you have clients and friends and a network that are wealthier and have more to spend and more to invest? Or are you just getting started out like I was at 19 with very small clients just getting started? What's your average client size in terms of what do they have to invest and what's their typical insurance need? And since we're working backwards, we have to think about how many proposals do we create that end in a closed deal. Now, for a lot of the time, for a lot of people, this might be something like 50%. Maybe you do 10 proposals and only 5 of those people become clients. So we have to think about the math there. We need to get enough meetings and enough proposals that we can create enough business to get 100,000 in revenue. You can kind of see where I'm going. I'm working backwards to determine what systems we have to put in place. And the last thing we have to talk about is the prospecting conversion, which is every time you prospect somebody, which is do a cold call or you reach out, you talk to somebody about potentially sitting down with you to discuss investing and financial planning. How many of those reach outs that you do actually turn into a meeting? Maybe it's 25%, maybe it's 30%. It's typically very low, because if you're gonna go up to random people and kind of talk to them and ask them for a meeting to discuss their finances and how you can help, odds are pretty low they're gonna be interested, and that's a natural part of the business. So now I want to walk through some actual numbers to help this make sense. Let's say, and you'll know your compensation package, but industry standard, you typically get paid 1% of assets under management for investments that you help advise on and work with. And you also probably get paid about 125% of the annual premium on insurance commission. So if you want to rewind that and re-listen to it to see, maybe you're not in the business yet, how do these advisors get paid? It's typically 1% of assets and 125% of the annual premium on an insurance policy. So now, using that, we can break this down with some pretty simple math. If we are able to get $5 million in assets under management, we take 1%, that's $50,000 per year. And if we are able to get $40,000 per year in insurance premiums sold, that's going to also equal $50,000 per year. So what that means is if we get $5 million under management and $40,000 per year in insurance premium, boom, there's your $100,000, right? So now we have to work our way back. How are we going to get $5 million in assets under management, and how are we going to get $40,000 in annual premium? Let's assume that your average client size is $50,000 in investments and $400 per year in insurance. And some are going to be larger and some are going to be smaller, but let's say it averages out to that. Well, what that means is if we take $400 a year times 100 clients, and if we take 50,000 times 100 clients, we have exactly what we need. We have $5 million in assets under management and $40,000 of insurance premium every year. So what that means is we just need to get 100 clients. And I mean, that sounds pretty simple. It's ultimately very difficult in the end, but at least we have a number. We have something to strive towards that isn't just 100,000. It's something that's more concrete. It's something we can actually work towards with a system. But we also talked about two other things. What is the conversion rate on the proposals that you produce and the client that you actually meet with? And what is the conversion rate when you're prospecting? How many of the people who you're talking to or trying to start a conversation with actually culminate in a meeting? So let's assume that your prospecting rate is 25%. For every 4 people that you talk to, one of them is actually for some reason interested in talking to you. That's fantastic, okay? And let's say out of those 25% that talk to you, half of those people become clients. And that's what I've found over the course of my business, is that it's much harder to get somebody to actually sit with you than it is to get someone who's sit with you to become a client. The really difficult part is to actually get them in front of you and to really show your value. But once you're there, the easy part is mostly taken care of. It's the prospecting that's the hard part. So ultimately, we can look at the math this way. If we reach out to 800 people, sounds crazy, but that's the number, and 25% of those people accept, that means we'll have 200 meetings. And if out of those 200 meetings, 50% of those people convert into clients, we now have 100 clients. And if our average client size is 50,000 and 400 a year, now we've achieved that goal. We have a system which is find 800 people or reach out to 800 people. And you might think, where in the heck am I gonna ever reach out to 800 people? I don't even know 5 people. I don't know 100 people. Maybe you know 5 people. All that being said, you can see how there's a system evolving here. Instead of thinking, how am I gonna make it? How am I gonna survive? How am I gonna make $100,000 or be successful? You might be thinking, how can I reach out to 800 people? And the reality is, it takes time, right? And that's why I said, this is why it's most important that you set a minimum, because it will take 3, it will take 4, it will take 5 years minimum before you can talk to 800 people, before you can find 800 people to reach out to in the first place. But this is what I mean by systemizing it. Instead of thinking about how am I going to make 100,000, now you have one goal. It's to get in front of 800 people. Now that you have some sort of system or something to strive towards, 800 people to reach out to, that's great because you can really hone in on increasing the efficiency of those ratios we talked about. And what I mean by this is stacking the odds in your favor. The amount of people you're reaching out to isn't fixed. The conversion rates aren't fixed. The client size isn't fixed. You can increase these things by improving yourself. For instance, if you want to increase the number of people you talk to or the people you get in front of and reach that 800 number faster, the easiest way to do that is to get on social media and start broadcasting out, and who knows, maybe 800 people have watched this video, maybe 1,000 people have watched this video. By the time you've seen it, there's enough people that I've got in front of that it might create more opportunities. Another way to do that is just give it time, because referrals will eventually come to you. 5 years into the business, I don't do much reaching out. I don't really reach out of those, this 800 person idea. I don't reach out to people anymore because they get referred into me. So do great work and you will get referrals, and that is another way to get in front of more people. Now that you've taken the initiative to improve the amount of people that you're getting in front of, you can work towards improving your ability to convert those people. And what I mean by that is, if you can know your stuff really well, and I think this is what set me apart from my competition, is investing, as you could probably tell, is a hobby for me. It's not something I'm forced to do because of a job. If you can convey the passion and the energy and know the answers to people's questions, you're gonna convert way more than 50%. I believe that at Haven, the company that I run, our conversion rate from proposal to finished client is closer to 90%. And the reason is because most of them are referred in, which means they trust us, and we're good enough to answer their questions and come up with intelligent proposals for them that we have a much higher conversion rate. And ultimately, we can also increase our client size. Over time, your average client might get much larger than 50,000, but that one, in my view, you don't want to force it. That one just comes with time and it comes with experience. Even if you're a first or second year advisor and you're wondering, where are the big clients? Everyone talked about getting high net worth clients and these clients who were so great to deal with and made us a lot of money and all this kind of stuff. Those take time. I didn't get any of those for 3 years. And eventually when they started to come, yeah, they're fantastic. They're some of the greatest people to deal with. But a lot of this just comes down to staying in the game and optimizing the things you can control. So anyways, guys, that's a massive rant on what I think it takes to become successful as an advisor and the kind of system you can implement yourself to maximize the chances that you're gonna succeed. So anyways, if you got any value whatsoever out of this video, please make sure to hit that like button, hit subscribe, and turn on post notifications for more videos just like this one every single week. Until next time.